Hi everyone, this is Alan Rosinski of Metro Manhattan Office Space. Today I'd like to talk about lease expiration deadlines. Sounds a bit academic, but this is a really serious subject for businesses. Really what this means in plain English is that if you're renting a space, your lease is going to expire one day. And if you have to move, you better plan that move out, because what happens if you find it, let's say you start looking a year before your lease expires and you sign a lease for a space, and the space is ready before your existing lease ends, you could be stuck paying double rent. Let's look at a different situation. You got a lease which is expiring, you want to move to a new building, and if your new space isn't ready on time, you're going to pay a penalty to your existing landlord if you stay beyond your existing lease. Now, I thought this would be a good topic because it's universal. It'll apply in New York City, Chicago, Paris, Bombay, or Timbuktu for that matter. So I wanted to really emphasize the importance for planning any kind of real estate move, to really think it through. Now, a situation where you're paying double rent because your space is ready a little bit too early, it's rare, because usually what landlords will do is they'll give you some free rent to ensure that you're not, as a new tenant, paying double rent. But there's got to be a certain amount of a lease term. You got to sign a commitment for, say, 5 years, at least 3 years to maybe get a month, because a landlord on a 1-year lease isn't going to give you any free rent. So let's say you have a lease expiration. You probably want to start to see what availabilities are a year before your lease expires. It doesn't hurt to start too early. And you have to kind of take into account the timing of an acquisition. Now, if you've got a really small space and there's going to be no work, you can probably get into something within a couple of weeks or a month. So maybe you'd start looking 2 or 3 months before your lease expiration, because what you'd probably want to do is get possession of your new space at least a month before your existing lease expires, so you can move your furniture, your documents, files, get the telecommunication working to make the transition really seamless. So say 3 months for a small space. But let's say you need 3 or 4 or 5,000 square feet, and you're not sure whether there's a space on the market which wouldn't need construction. Because the moment you're talking about construction, you're talking about architectural plans, permits, a contractor, whether you do the build-out, which I really would suggest you don't do, and try to get a landlord to do a build-out for you. Those steps in the process are going to be there. So if you're looking for a larger space, start earlier. I would advise you to probably contact a broker, because a broker is going to really be able, any form of real estate professional, broker, is going to help you evaluate what your needs are and what your time frame should be. Whether there'll be pre-built spaces on the market where you're not going to really have to worry about the time frame for construction, because what landlords do is they pre-build space to very generic type of build-outs, like your typical law firm, accounting firm may need an office-intensive layout, so they take a 2,500 square foot space, build 4 or 5 offices, a conference room, and it's perfect for a law firm or a CPA firm. But maybe you need something which is more customized. Let's say you're a law firm and you need very, very large partner offices, and you need a very, very large conference room. You're going to need that custom built, and that's going to take more time, and it's less likely, if you have something which is of a less of a generic build out, that there'll be anything that can remotely be modified. So oddly enough, not oddly, but in a city like New York City, where there's tens of millions of square feet, the chances of finding a larger variety of build-outs is better. If you're in a smaller market, the chances of something being a very specific build-out are less. So I really suggest that you start a search early, contact your broker, and avoid the risk of a holdover penalty by staying beyond the end of your lease expiration in your current space, or much less likely paying double rent because you've signed a lease before your existing lease terminates. So I hope this is food for thought. And I think this is important for and most business owners, because most businesses in this day and age, at least in the U.S., they don't own their space. They lease, because of the flexibility of leasing and the ability to invest their capital in their businesses rather than purchasing a space. So the flexibility is really nice, but it does require on the part of the business owner some advanced planning. So I hope this is going to save you some money and some grief, and it's useful information. And if it is, please, of course, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Have a nice evening, and until the next time, this is Alan Rosinski of Metro Manhattan Office Space.